Welcome back. If you're just joining us, I have here with me the presidential candidate of the African Action Congress, Sowore, and we're talking about his plans for Nigerians. I was going through some of the things, a few of your interviews in the past, and you had, and of course, your plans.
Yes.
And there's a lot of promises that you've made. And a few of them caught my attention. You said something about the minimum wage,
yes,
increasing it to 100,000 naira, investing $3.6 billion in infrastructure. You want to do a mortgage plan up to 2 million naira for Nigerians. Workers. And where is this money coming from, first of all? $3.6 billion.
Yes.
Where is this money coming from?
It's coming from the Nigerian economy. What has been happening for a long time is that we've been spending billions servicing greedy people. And I'll give you an example. The banking sector in 4 years gave 5.3 trillion naira, about 5.3 to 5.7 trillion naira to businessmen, only 150 of them, maybe about 350 of them. They ended up as bad loans, and then they created AMCON to clean up the mess. Imagine if that had been, invested in the housing sector, infrastructure. We are not talking about the $5 billion we lose to corruption every year, right? But in case that is a problem, that's difficult to understand. Think about what we could do with our taxes. We have the lowest tax rates in West Africa, even on the African continent. We're doing at 7%.
So how are you going to change that?
You change that by being the leader of the country, by implementing, collection of taxes is not, we're not increasing taxes. We're just saying that if you're an employer and you deduct taxes of your workers, you must remit it to the federal government, and that would take us directly to 8 to 9 trillion naira. Let me explain how that happens. You see with the Buhari regime, they said they collected 5 trillion naira in taxes. What is the budget of Nigeria? 8.8 trillion. So if you did just a little bit more work, you can cover the entire budget with just taxes alone. You're not talking about oil earnings, because for me that's lazy economy. It's just there for you to collect. But the same people said they recovered money from EFCC. JAM is returning, profit for the first time. You have customs. All of these people combined together, if they are putting in their revenue, as they should, we have more than enough. We talk about minimum wage. What is the minimum wage of Nigeria compared to our GDP? Our GDP is about $500 billion, dollars, and the minimum wage is about 1.5 billion. It's not even up to a percentage of. And when you increase worker salaries or you pay what I call living wage, the investment goes into the country. People invest in, the local economy, they buy things. If you have a shoemaker who's buying shoe from or you're buying shoe from, now you go order for 2. Then he hires more people.
Many people have always said that, these promises are always easier to make before you get in. I'm going somewhere. Yeah. And I like to ask a question a lot to people who are running for office, because people have always said that one of our biggest issues with all of this is our civil service. And you can't change that the day you get into office by just increasing salaries and expecting things to flow. No. How do you fix the civil service in concordance with this?
So this is interesting. We have a civil service that's bloated, but it's not bloated because there are civil servants. It's bloated by corruption. The police, found over 80,000 fake police officers. I think about 2 years ago. That was publicly reported. So if you use technology to weed out all the fake ghost workers from the system, you have a civil service that is real, organic. And what we're saying is that if you pay them their minimum wage, that is a living wage, they start working the way they should work. The ones that are older and not productive, you can buy them out of the civil service. What I mean buyout is that if you work for 25 years, I can give you a buyout opportunity to say, instead of doing another 5 years, we pay you off, you leave, you enjoy your retirement, and we hire new people, we train them, we professionalize them, and they become people who are familiar with modern civil service rules. I'm not saying that civil service is the only way you can hire people, but people often forget that most of even the private sector work that we need to be done in terms of regulation, in terms of what support even the private sector, comes from the civil service.
What about the states? How do the states play into this? Because, if you're going to increase the minimum wage, the states have to be paying something as well.
Of course.
A lot of the state governments can't even pay what we have now. How do you fix that?
What do you think the states get the money to pay security votes? Is it not the same states that can't pay civil service? So let me tell you, you have Kebbi State. Kebbi State made almost 100 billion naira from growing rice. They're selling rice even through Lagos. If you go to the federal government every month to collect the handout that they collect, about 4 billion naira per month. If you're growing rice, if you're creative, you make 100 billion. Which one would you rather do? Is to make the states productive, and make them competitive. Because even laws in this country that are supposed to be implemented by the federal, they are state laws. But people often forget that the states can grow and can participate in the growth of the economy. But when you start voting the same kind of characters into state as we have in the federal government now, what do you expect? You just have rent seekers collecting minimum, they're collecting their own, what they call security votes. There's never been a time in this country that you found a state governor who didn't pay his security votes. But they don't pay they don't pay salaries because they don't want to pay salaries, not because there's no money. So many of the states that have drawn from Paris Club, they've drawn from a lot of refunds, slush funds that Buhari gave to them. They still didn't pay salaries, not because the money wasn't there, but because they are interested in stealing the money that's meant for workers. And it's up to the workers to hold them to account.
Yeah.